All right, Tom, thank you for doing this, first of all, and for being a part of Flag Anthem. So, Tom, first off, before I get into the meat of the interview, tell me all the different ways that your last name's been mispronounced over the years. Rattle those off for us.
Hoge, Hodge, Haji. I got a few caddies that still call me Haji from when that one was announced on a first tee before. I don't know, probably pretty much about everything, but I don't really care that much. Just give me a tee time, I'll keep showing up.
Is it less and less now as you're kind of
I would
made a name
so.
for yourself?
Still definitely people, Hoge or Hoagie, and I always tell them just like the sandwich.
Okay. Easy way to remember. All right, so next week is Masters week. So talk about what playing in the Masters is like for you and the 2 times that you've played in the past.
Yeah, I mean, it's the biggest week of the year for me. As a kid growing up, you always see the Masters, and, growing up in North Dakota, that was kind of always right around the time when golf courses would open, the golf bugs hitting in full force coming out of winter. So, certainly it's the highlight of the year, and I think it took me till my 8th year on tour to make it to the Masters. So certainly have that appreciation for how hard it is to get there. I played 2 years, had last year off at home, and that was a tough one to have to watch from the couch. So I'm really excited to get back, and it's just a special week, and it seems to fly by every time.
So all the traditions that are part of it, you get the invitation, like talk about that type of stuff, just anticipation and excitement of it.
Yeah, I think more than anything, like you said, the anticipation of it. Like last year, I was playing well all throughout last year. I was like, I got to make it back to East Lake so I can, punch my way to Augusta. And, now you've got from Labor Day of last year when I played East Lake, top 30, make it to Augusta, and we've had the whole year. And unfortunately, I haven't made any trips out there. I haven't been able to take anybody this year, but, you're just waiting till we get to April and get to go to the Masters.
Yeah. Your past couple of times, any favorite memories that you kind of latch onto, even if it's outside of the golf, maybe just being on the property, doing different things with family there? What's really sticks to your mind?
Yeah, my favorite memory that stands out, I won for the first time in February of 2022, had a trip to Augusta Masters coming up a couple months later, and got to take my dad and brother first time I played with a member that was kind enough to host us. So just to be able to share that with them, the first time going down Magnolia Lane, everything that Augusta National has, and that was all of our first trips there, was really cool. And I guess as a player for the Masters, the head's down that week, ready to compete. So I don't take in some of those traditions as much as family and friends were able to for the week. But, it's kind of cool just to sit down at the end of the week and, hear everybody else's experiences and highlights. And I think more than anything, getting to invite people, for the first time there for the Masters and give them tickets and see how excited they are leading into it's pretty cool.
That is cool. Now this year, be a little different with you and the little one. You got the baby boy. Kind of talk about that routine and that dynamic of, Masters week with your family. You got houses, you got other family there. It's going to be a busy week for, like you said, your head's down, but everybody else kind of
for sure
enjoying themselves.
Yeah, it certainly has changed a lot Masters week. I think I've learned, this being my 3rd time playing now, to kind of get a house for myself and a house for other family, kind of get away from it a little bit and just relax. But first Masters with our son. So that par 3 contest, he's step in kind of as a caddy as much as he can at 4 months old, but will be cool to have those photos and something we'll always look back on, with him as a little guy in his jumpsuit there. So
they make one small enough?
I may have to reach out to Flag Anthem to get a Flag Anthem jumpsuit.
Perfect. Talk about Augusta, the golf course, Augusta National, and just kind of the unique layout and challenging holes, favorite holes, not so favorite holes. Kind of walk us through a little bit of that.
My first thought of Augusta National, the golf course, my first time I played it, I was completely worn out coming up the hill on 18. It's a tough walk, so many hills and such a big golf course that physically it's a tough task for the week. Everybody talks about how open it is off the tee, how you get away driving it. A little more wild, but I felt like it's still pretty tight. Well, some tight shoots to hit through, 18, a few of those holes. But more than anything, I just feel like, every phase of your game has to be pretty sharp. It's just going to test you, in all facets, but especially around the greens. Putting and short game's got to be really sharp for that week. And so my focus now has just been on getting my game, feeling sharp and ready to go. Had a nice outing at the Players Championship a few weeks ago, finished third, so I built a little confidence, and hopefully I can keep that going now leading into the Masters.
Nice. Any favorite memories from the past Masters maybe that you didn't even play in? You remember watching it on TV, or, those big wins, or maybe even just, different things that kind of crossed your pathway back in the growing up?
Certainly remember a lot of Tiger's big moments. The chip in he had on 16. Kind of those moments as I was growing up was when Tiger was in his prime right there. But I think it's cool to go back now and just see some of the different, memorable Masters, Jack in 86. Some of those that stand out, and just the history that they have there with so many, iconic shots that have been hit.
Now let's get into kind of your partnership. Talk about that partnership and involvement with Cook's Children's Hospital and kind of what that means to you and Kelly too. I know you guys are really involved with that.
Yeah, so the partnership with Cook Children started in 2021 in the fall. The PGA Tour has the Birdies for Love campaign. Whoever makes the most birdies in the fall part of the season. I ended up with $300,000 to donate to charities of my choice. And so, we wanted to focus on different areas, back home in Fargo, North Dakota, our community now in Fort Worth, Texas. And I started looking for places around, Fort Worth where we could impact kids the most. Cook Children's really came to the forefront. And, to think about what families go through at that difficult time, where their kids need help, and try to offset some of those financial impacts has really seemed like a big need and something that we've been happy to give back to. And, that relationship's now progressed to being a partner of mine, and, going to give $50 for every birdie that I make this year on the golf course. And Flag Anthem's been fantastic to partner with me in that as well and join in on it. So something really cool that we can do and try and help a lot of people, across North Texas.
That's awesome. It's known you and Kelly are very involved and you want to support communities, charities. Kind of where does that come from? What drives that for you guys?
I would say, first of all, I think the PGA Tour's commitment to charity, every week that we play, helping the communities that we play in is certainly a big part of that. And just opening our eyes to the platform that we've got and how many people that we can help. And, I kind of took that more as a challenge than anything when I was giving that money through Birdies for Love. Is like, I hadn't done as much as I should have to that point. And it's kind of time to step up a little bit for everything that I've been given through the game. So,
Right.
And then for me, I look back that there was a group of guys that were, 3 to 7 years older than I was at Fargo Country Club where I grew up, that kind of let me tag along as a kid out there. And I think I've always had a spot to try to give back to kids, through golf, and try and help kids, outside of golf as well. So that's kind of been our focus, is how we can help kids and really make an impact on their lives.
Awesome. So speaking of Fort Worth, your hometown, Colonial's obviously a big tournament in that area, and you playing. What's that like for you? First of all, being a part of that tournament, and then also playing in your hometown, as far as much different than playing, on the road.
Yeah, it's something that's evolved now. My 11th year on PGA Tour, I think just seeing how lucky I am, first of all, to have a tournament, 15 minutes, sleep in my own bed that week has been great. And then, the tournament for a little while there was a little bit in limbo between sponsors, and to see that it may go away, kind of felt like you need to take a little more pride and ownership of, the city of Fort Worth having a tournament like that. So, it's been great. Colonial has been great hosts, throughout all the years. It's fun to listen to guys, one of their favorite events of the year is to come to Colonial, playing the Charles Schwab Challenge. So that's been cool. I think just now getting kind of the support, from TCU and all the Fort Worth people I'm playing that week has been really cool as well. And certainly is another week that I look forward to every year.
So for the, during tournament week, for those folks that may not be in Fort Worth very often, what are some of the Tom Hoge hot spots that you like as far as restaurants, places to go? What would you recommend, as far as getting a good sense and a good flavor of Fort Worth?
I think Fort Worth's pretty cool because you've got such great diversity there. You can go down to the stockyards, go to Lonesome Dove, H3s. You kind of get that Western flair in the stockyards, or
Right.
travel around different spots of town. But it has a little bit for everybody, and certainly makes for a great week.
It's kind of a hidden gem. Not too many people, think about Fort Worth, but it's got a lot of things to do. I mean,
Yeah, and like I said, you've got the Arts District, you've got the Stockyards, you've got the big city feel with Dallas that close, so it's got a little bit for everybody. It's got the sports scene. So yeah, a little bit of everything that you can do that week, and the golf's a lot of fun as well.
And the golf courses are pretty good. You got Colonial, and then you're playing out of where these days?
Play at Mira Vista and Shady Oaks, two great spots in Fort Worth that. One's Bermuda grass throughout, one's bank grass, so I get a little bit of mix of everything, and, can always prep well for the upcoming tournaments in the schedule. So yeah, it's been very good to me. And, Fort Worth golf, you first think of Ben Hogan, see all his stuff at Shady Oaks and Colonial. So yeah, so much history to Fort Worth and the golf scene there.
And you're a part of history of Fort Worth with TCU now, and just kind of as you've been inducted into the TCU Sports Hall of Fame, and kind of walk us through what that's like and how much of an honor that was for you, I guess, this past fall, right?
Yeah, it was really cool to be inducted in the TCU Hall of Fame. And certainly, I wouldn't say I had a standout career or anything when I was at TCU, so would have probably never thought I would be inducted to the Hall of Fame. But I think it's cool now. We love going to basketball games, football games when we're at home, being around the TCU community. So to have that honor, to go to a basketball game and kind of walk by my portrait on the wall in the Hall of Fame is pretty cool, but a little bit weird at the same point. I feel like it happened in the middle of my career. I feel like I hopefully still have a lot left to write out here for my career. So, my head's a little bit more back down, go back to work and try and build on this career a little bit.
What was that like in you looking at different colleges and playing somewhere? What drew you to TCU? How did that all happen?
Yeah, well, first of all, I wanted to get out of the snow. So get down somewhere south, and there were so many great options. But, I really wasn't one of these highly recruited guys or anything. Nobody's going to North Dakota looking for golfers, that's for sure. But there were two guys from Fargo, like I said, Fargo Country Club, that played golf at TCU Academy, kind of paved the way there, had the connection with the coach. And, I think Fort Worth and TCU kind of have a little bit of a smaller town feel as well. So coming from North Dakota, a little bit smaller area, was a good fit for me and kind of allowed me to grow. And I may have been a little bit behind coming in. It took me until my sophomore year to start playing some tournaments in the travel squad, but I look back and feel like I've got a little bit better every year kind of since my time at TCU, something I'm proud of.
Yeah. Well, we're the apparel sponsor for you, and just kind of talk to us about that partnership, how that benefits you out here on tour, and kind of the best way of describing having an apparel partner like that. And I'm sure you want to look good and feel good on the course, but what goes into that for you as far as picking a good partner when it comes to your clothing?
Yeah, Flag Anthem's been fantastic for me. Second year wearing it now, and I think you hit the nail on the head. Look good to play good. There's certainly something to that adage. You have a little more confidence walking up to the tee. So I feel like, first of all, it fits kind of the style that I'm looking for. And then, their whole range of apparel, both on the golf course and off, has been fantastic. And, we have so many different climates that we play in, starting in the West Coast where it can be 30, 40 degrees teeing off, and then get in the summer. So they really got, everything to fit my needs in the golf course and go out and no excuses, play well.
So if we were to ask Kelly about your style and kind of what you would be wearing without an apparel partner, how did you describe your kind of fashion sense?
That's a great question. I would say I'm a little more on the traditional side. So if you're the prince that Flag Anthem gets me in, push my boundaries a little, that's probably a good thing. But no, I feel like everything suits me very well for something I'd be wearing on my own as it is, which I think is, a big part of it. And I feel comfortable, and, great materials, that breathe well, move well throughout the golf swing. And like I said, there's no excuses for me to go out and hit a bad shot. It's all on me at this point.
Nice. Speaking of you and your buddies, kind of bring us into that, money game you might have, just kind of a easy weekend or day, weekday. Just what do you enjoy most about those times with your friends?
Yeah, I really need a little bit of money on the line to get out and focus on the golf course. If not, I might as well just head in because I'm not getting much out of it. But with that said, Mira Vista, where I play at, has a scratch game that plays at 12:30 every day. Throw in $40 and away you go. So it's nothing too crazy.
Yeah.
But I just like to feel like my score is going to matter out there. I've got to go play for something and go tee it up. And, you never know when you're going to find that little swing thought or if things are going to click. And, can be out there with just a few bucks in the line.
So you may or may not do the golf trip, buddy trip, and maybe you do, but give us a couple of, places that you would definitely be wanting to go if you were kind of putting a buddy trip together. One of those destination type places that maybe you've been to or maybe you haven't been to just yet, but what would be on kind of your short list?
That's a tough question for the buddy trips. I feel like there's so many great places now out there. For me, I would start with the weather, that it's got to be somewhere where the weather's pretty good, because I don't have a lot of interest in playing in bad weather at this point. So for me, the abandoned dunes of the world may be out because of that. But I think of Pinehurst, first of all. So many great golf courses, good diversity there.
Yeah.
Last summer, I went to Sand Valley for a little trip in Wisconsin and had a cool time, playing the Lido in Sand Valley. But seems like there's so many great places now that you can go to, and I think it's really cool, to just get out there and enjoy it. And I think, I grew up at a golf course, par 3 course as well. I think those can be fantastic, cruise around in 45 minutes or an hour and do that. So I'm a big fan of the par 3 course.
Well, that's going to do it, Tom. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah.
Good luck this week and good luck next week and the rest of the schedule here on out. We appreciate you.
Appreciate it.